Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm Shayna Cersei and I'm so excited to paint with you today. Today we're going to be doing another page in our watercolor journals, and I have just come back from a walk this morning and I saw this lovely bush probably, that is I had to look it up, but a European smoke tree or bush. And this is quite lovely. It's got beautiful dark kind of, it's multicolored leaves. Like when you really look at them, it's like these burgundy, purple, green, beautiful leaves on it. So that's what we're going to paint today. And also it is a flowering plant. It has these large little spiky areas that flower. This one was not flowering yet, so I won't be painting the flowers, but I think I'm actually going to turn my book this way for this one. And we're going to get started. So for supplies and materials, I have my 6x9 Bao watercolor sketchbook. This is 100% cotton, 140-pound cold press. I'm still using my core mini palette today. These are all the colors that come in it with it, 12 different colors, great little mini palette. Colors are beautiful and vibrant and kind of has everything you need to make as many colors as you want. So with these leaves, I'm going to paint them in some layers, I think, to kind of bring out these colors, and definitely using some wet on wet. So this is a bismuth yellow. It's like a cool yellow color. I'm also going to pull out, my yellows are going to mix together, but that's okay. This is a warmer yellow. This is a nickel azo yellow. Definitely going to pull out my green, my sap green. I'm using a Princeton Velvet Touch brush, but I'm also going to pull out some of my Phthalo blue green shade, which I already had some green on there, so it's very green right now. But let's pull out some actual just blue. There we go. And magenta. So these are all the colors I'm going to use in combination to make these leaves. So lots of different colors, but they are multicolored leaves. They're gorgeous. Okay, so I'm going to start with, they're very fatter, kind of rounder leaf. So I'm just going to start by laying down some of this yellow. So they're almost like lemon shaped, I guess, as I'm painting this, because it's yellow. It kind of reminds me of a lemon. But I'm also going to try to paint some leaves that are not fully facing the viewer. So half the side of leaves. And let's draw some here. And basically I'm laying down this yellow because this, I'm going to cover most of it up. I'm setting my shape up, but I also want to preserve some of this color when I paint over it as the bright center. So it has a vein, it has a lot of veining. I'm only going to really focus on the center vein. It has a lot of veining in it that's usually a lighter color. Now the other part of this I wanted to paint. Me too. I just want some more overlapping kind of pieces there. Okay. I wanted to paint that spiky part, but I've kind of taken up all of my space here. So we'll go with this for now, and then we'll continue to work on that. So my next few layers, like this one and this one have dried, so I'm going to start working my way back through and laying down my green, but really trying to avoid that center. I pick up some of this darker green, pick up a little magenta. Now magenta and green, when they are mixed together, make brown, make a brownish color. So these leaves had that quality. It would be like, it would look from one angle almost purplish, and then from another angle it would kind of morph into that brown color, and then from another angle it definitely had that like smoky vibe. So magenta and this blue green will be a nice mix, I think. And every leaf, depending on what angle you were looking at it, looked a little different. So I've lost my magenta for sure. So I'm going to mix some of this with this phthalo blue right in the well. Phthalo blue, sap green, some purple in there. I'm going to just start with purple, kind of laying over some of this yellow, and then I'm going to apply some green. So phthalo blue and magenta. Let's do this one here. Man, these core colors are like so vibrant. I'm going to start with magenta. I'm just playing with layering and how the different effects I get depending on what color I start with. I do have to do these stems as well, so I'm just going to add a little green. But the stems are just as kind of multicolored, I felt like, as I was observing it. I really like this one that I just did with the magenta first. I'm just adding like a glaze of blue over top. Yeah, that one's awesome. Let's try that again. Let's do this one. Now, if you really wanted to do all of the veining in these, you could try some masking fluid. Just going back into this one over here. Could try painting these little square like bits around it. Not square, like each individual section in between, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start with green behind here. This one's still my favorite. Let's try to replicate that over here. And this can be just really meditative. Obviously, I'm not saying a whole lot. Just kind of feeling your way through the colors, playing with the wet on wet. I am probably going to do a little glazing over top of these. These are very multicolored. They feel very rainbow-y, which I don't want it to feel completely out of the realm of organic possibility. So I might do a little glazing over top of them just to kind of bring them all in line. And what glazing is just a light, a very thin layer of like another color over top of something you've already painted, to kind of, not to try to cover up what's beneath, but to interact with what's beneath, to give it some continuity or to bring a shade to it or a tone to it that doesn't already exist. All right, I'm going to let these dry. There's a lot of drying to go on. And then I'm going to come back and do a little glazing over them, I think. All right, we're back, and I went and took another quick look at the reference photo I took from this morning from my walk, and overall the leaves have more of a magenta tone to them, or a burgundy tone to them. So we are going to take our magenta, and I added just a smidge of Ultramarine. I'm going to take just a smidge of Payne's Gray, I think that's in here. And we're going to try to see what happens. The other thing that is not as bright are the veins that run through the center. They are more of a burgundy color too. Still much lighter than the rest of the leaf. But this will hopefully just bring an overall kind of tone to everything. So I'm just going to go over with this thin glaze. I don't know how this is going to work. I'm going to go right over my greens with it, which is going to kind of brown them up a little bit. We're going to trust the process. I'm going to let everything dry. And I might put a little bit more shadow detail right next to the vein in the center, just to help it pop a little bit, but we'll see. And that is why, once again, we have journals or sketchbooks to experiment and play with things, to play with new techniques that may or may not work. And if they don't work, it is not failure. Sometimes it's just not a great technique that shouldn't have been applied to that situation. Other times it's you just need to practice whatever the technique was that you were applying. I think this is going to work without making things look super muddy and make them look more like the actual leaves that I saw this morning. Oh, that's super dark. And you could do more than one layer of a glaze if you want to continue to increase it or vary. So let's make this one a little more pinky in a few spots. All right. I'm feeling good about this, actually. I thought I was going to make a muddy mess, but I'm going to let it dry, and then I am going to come in with a little detail around the veins. I'm just using a dry brush to blend this one out so I don't get a weird cauliflower there. And the weird cauliflowers wouldn't be the end of the world on these particular ones. Okay. So I'm going to let this dry, and I'm going to come back and add a little pop of shadow next to some of the veins to just give it a little more oomph. Okay, let it dry. Let's see what happens. All right, we're back. Now I'm going to take this magenta, I'm going to add Payne's gray to make this really dark color. And I'm using a rigger brush or a script liner. And I am just going to go along the edge of this vein here. I'm actually going to blend it out. So I've put a lot of paint on these leaves here, just so you know. That can get tricky when you're working with some different quality papers. So just keep that in mind. This one is already super dark. Let's see, this one here. Just gonna let that one dry. And I might do a little bit of detail work on this one, on the stems. I see some of them are still bright, bright yellow. So I'm going to give them some contrast as well, just on one edge. Some of the space. I'm going to try not to get too crazy. I don't want it to be like a perfect outline. When you build in that contrast, then it just makes the other areas pop as highlights. So this one is still like bright, bright yellow. Now I'm just playing with some other veining on there, even though the veining isn't dark, it's usually much lighter, at least on the ones I saw, but it can still be fun. All right, and then the last thing with this, it had this other piece to it, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to fit it in here. But basically, maybe I'll just do something out this way. It was in this dark color. This was, I think, the flowering part, or will be the flowering part. But all these tiny little needle shapes, but they were so tiny and so delicate, it almost looked fluffy. And it was like this whole patchwork of actually put some yellow in here. And this was one of those things, like you can just keep going and going as long as your lines are super delicate and keep adding and adding. And it kind of creates this very textured, almost fluffy feel. So you probably definitely need a detail or a rigger brush or script liner for this. It would be very difficult to get these really fine lines unless you have a super awesome round brush. Even then, it might be really hard. So I might add another one of those to the other side. And this could take a very long time, as you can see. So I'm going to speed up through this part to get us to the end. You get the idea. All right, there we are, our European smoke tree leaves. We're all done. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. So like the video, subscribe to the channel. Check out the description for links to supplies and materials I use in this video, as well as others that I use regularly. And leave a comment. All right, y'all, take care. Happy painting.